fragile beginning. On Christmas Day, 1642, in the quiet village of Woolsthorpe, Lincolnshire, a frail child was born. His name was Isaac Newton. He arrived prematurely, so tiny that neighbors doubted he would live even a week. His father, a prosperous farmer also named Isaac, had died months before his birth, leaving his mother, Hannah Asko, to raise the boy alone. From the beginning, Newton's life seemed overshadowed by hardship and fragility. Yet, within this weak child lay a brilliance that would illuminate the world. His early years were filled with loneliness, especially when his mother remarried and left him in the care of his grandmother. The pain of abandonment shaped his character, turning him inward. He became a boy of silence and solitude, often lost in thought. No one could imagine that this small, quiet child, seen by many as ordinary, would one day unravel the deepest mysteries of the universe. His story begins not with grandeur, but with struggle, survival, and the spark of curiosity that quietly burned within him. The lonely boy of Woolsthorpe. Newton's childhood was far from carefree. Left behind when his mother married a wealthy clergyman, young Isaac grew up in emotional isolation. He was shy, often bullied, and rarely joined the other boys in games. Instead, he buried himself in inventions and strange experiments. He carved wooden models, crafted windmills powered by mice, and built water clocks that amazed his neighbors. These unusual pastimes made him stand apart. While other boys were strong and social, Newton seemed fragile and withdrawn. Yet, inside his quiet mind, questions bloomed. He was fascinated by how things moved, how shadows changed, and how the stars lit up the night. In school, his early grades were unimpressive. But after being humiliated by a classmate, Newton poured his energy into study, quickly rising to the top of his class. His desire to outdo others transformed him into a relentless learner. This mix of loneliness, imagination, and determination began to shape the scientist he would become. The boy who felt abandoned would soon find companionship in books, numbers, and the secrets of nature. Path to Cambridge. By the age of 18, Newton's intellectual gifts could no longer be ignored. His uncle recognized his talent and encouraged his mother to send him to the University of Cambridge. In 1661, Isaac entered Trinity College, a world far removed from his quiet village life. Cambridge was a center of learning, buzzing with new ideas that challenged ancient beliefs. While his peers studied Aristotle, Newton hungered for more. He devoured the works of Galileo, Kepler, and Descartes, filling his notebooks with questions and theories. At first, he was quiet and reserved, often preferring the solitude of his room. He was not popular, but he was determined. He saved money by working as a servant to wealthier students, yet he never let hardship distract him. At Cambridge, his mind blossomed. Mathematics, astronomy, and philosophy became his world. The seeds of his greatest discoveries were being planted. Though no one knew it yet, Newton was preparing to reshape science itself, turning centuries of tradition upside down. The Plague Years, a time of wonders. In 1665, disaster struck England as the Great Plague swept through the country. Cambridge shut down, and Newton returned to Woolsthorpe. For many, this was a time of fear and stagnation. But for Newton, it became the most productive period of his life, later called his Annus Mirabilis, or Year of Wonders. Isolated in the countryside, he worked alone, guided only by curiosity and imagination. Here, he laid the foundations of calculus, creating a new mathematical language to describe motion and change. He conducted experiments with prisms, discovering the hidden colors within white light. Most famously, he began formulating his ideas on gravity. Watching apples fall from trees, he wondered, could the same force pulling apples to the ground also keep the moon in orbit? These thoughts planted the seeds of his law of universal gravitation. While the world outside suffered plague and death, Newton's mind soared into realms never before imagined. Solitude gave him freedom, and his genius transformed that silence into history. The apple and the moon. The image of Newton sitting under an apple tree has become legendary. Though the story is often simplified, its meaning is profound. Newton did not just ask why apples fall. He asked why everything falls. Could the same invisible force pulling apples downward also reach the moon? Could it extend to planets and stars? These daring questions led him to a revolutionary conclusion. Gravity was universal. The heavens and the earth were not governed by separate laws, as once believed, but by the same force. For years, Newton refined his calculations in secret, filling page after page with formulas that described the universe as a vast, orderly machine. The falling apple became a symbol of his insight, but the truth was deeper. Newton had found a unifying principle that connected the earthly with the celestial. In that moment of wonder, the cosmos was no longer a mystery of myths. It became a realm of laws, waiting to be discovered, unlocking the secrets of light. While gravity captured Newton's imagination, light fascinated him just as much. In his darkened room, he let a thin beam of sunlight pass through a glass prism. To his astonishment, it broke into a spectrum of colors: red, orange, yellow, green, blue, and violet. Everyone believed that white light was pure, but Newton realized it was a blend of many colors. By recombining the spectrum, he proved his theory. His discoveries challenged the great minds of the time, who resisted his ideas fiercely. But Newton did not stop. To improve astronomy, he designed a new type of telescope using mirrors instead of lenses, avoiding the color distortions that plagued traditional instruments. His reflecting telescope, small yet powerful, gave scientists clearer views of the heavens. Light and color were no longer mysteries of philosophy. They were subjects of experiment and law. Newton's work in optics showed that truth could be revealed not by debate, but by observation, testing, and proof. The Principia, a masterpiece. By the mid-1680s, Newton had developed his theories of motion and gravitation, but he hesitated to publish. It was Edmund Halley, the astronomer, who persuaded him to share his work. In 1687, Newton released his magnum opus, Philosophiae Naturalis Principia Mathematica, known simply as Principia. This book was a turning point in history. In it, Newton laid down his three laws of motion and his law of universal gravitation. He demonstrated that the same principles governing falling apples also explained the orbits of planets and comets. The universe was revealed as a vast, predictable machine ordered by mathematics. Scientists across Europe marveled at the brilliance of his work. The Principia was not just a book, it was a revolution. It gave humanity a framework to understand nature with precision and confidence. Newton had turned chaos into order, mystery into law. With this one work, he became immortal in the annals of science. Rivalries and secrets. Despite his towering intellect, Newton was not free from human flaws. He was fiercely protective of his ideas and quick to anger when challenged. His bitter rivalries became legendary, especially with Robert Hooke, a fellow scientist who accused Newton of stealing credit. Their feud grew so heated that Newton withdrew from the Royal Society for years. He also clashed with Gottfried Wilhelm Leibniz over the invention of calculus, leading to one of the most famous disputes in scientific history. Beyond these battles, Newton pursued secret studies in alchemy, searching for hidden knowledge in metals and symbols. He wrote extensively on theology, exploring the mysteries of God and creation. To the public, he was a scientist. In private, he was an alchemist, philosopher, and seeker of hidden truths. Newton's life was not only about discovery. It was about the struggle between his brilliance and his restless, secretive nature, power and responsibility. As Newton's reputation grew, so did his influence. In 1696, he became warden of the Royal Mint, later rising to master. Here, he applied his sharp mind to reform England's currency, introducing strict measures against counterfeiters. He pursued criminals with relentless determination, even attending trials to ensure justice was done. It was an unusual role for a scientist, but Newton proved as effective in law and finance as in science. Meanwhile, he returned to the Royal Society, eventually serving as its president. From the stars to the economy, Newton's reach seemed boundless. Yet, he remained a solitary figure, never marrying, dedicating his life solely to his work. To the world, he was both a scholar and a statesman, a man whose intellect gave him power over both ideas and institutions. Knighted by the Queen. In 1705, Newton received one of the highest honors of his time. He was knighted by Queen and becoming Sir Isaac Newton. It was a recognition not only of his scientific genius, but also of his service to the nation. By now, he was celebrated across Europe as a living legend. His lectures were attended by scholars and admirers eager to witness the great mind in person. Yet, despite the fame and honors, Newton remained deeply private. He never sought wealth or luxury. His satisfaction lay in knowledge and the certainty that his discoveries would endure. The knighthood symbolized his place not just in science, but in history. A once-abandoned child had risen to stand among kings and queens, yet he carried himself with the same quiet determination that had guided him since boyhood. The final years. In his later years, Newton enjoyed great respect, but also endured the weight of old age. He suffered from gout and digestive problems, yet his mind remained sharp. Surrounded by admirers, he reflected on a life filled with both triumphs and struggles. He often spoke humbly about his achievements, once saying, "I do not know what I may appear to the world, but to myself, I seem to have been only like a boy playing on the seashore, finding a smoother pebble or prettier shell than ordinary, while the great ocean of truth lay all undiscovered before me." These words revealed his humility. For all his brilliance, Newton believed he had merely scratched the surface of knowledge. To the world, he was the greatest scientist of his age. To himself, he was still a curious child, looking out a universe full of mysteries. Legacy of a Genius. On March 31st, 1727, Isaac Newton passed away in London at the age of 84. He was buried with honor in Westminster Abbey, resting among kings and statesmen. His death marked the end of a remarkable life, but his ideas lived on. Newton had united the heavens and the earth under the same laws, transformed light into a subject of science, and given humanity tools to understand the natural world. His legacy shaped generations of scientists, from Laplace to Einstein, and continues to guide modern physics. To this day, his apple tree in Woolsthorpe remains a symbol of discovery, and his words echo as a call to curiosity. Isaac Newton was more than a scientist. He was a visionary who revealed the universe's hidden order. His life reminds us that even in loneliness, struggle, and doubt, one mind can change the destiny of the world.